So, schools were good, medical facilities good, recreation's good. Now it's time to look at downtowns. First of all, downtown should priority number one for both of your communities. Downtown should be priority number one. Here's why. The heart and soul of any community besides its people is its downtown. As a matter of fact, if you don't hang out in your downtown, neither will visitors. We go where you go. So if you're heading to Milwaukee or Kenosha or Racine or somewhere, that's where we're going to go. And so that's really important. You need to bring your downtowns to life. And by the way, downtowns are back and in a big way. But here's the difference. The future of downtowns is never going to go back to Mayberry and leave it to Beaver. Those days are over. The future of downtowns is where we go after work and on weekends, which means you need to be open. You know what? If you live here in these two communities, and heaven forbid you have to commute out of town, you come back after work and your downtowns are closed, and you wonder why Amazon, did you know that 50% of all the households in America pay money to become Amazon Prime members? And in these rural downtowns, you wonder why we go to Walmart or Target or wherever, because they're open, and other than that, we're online. But the future of downtowns is where we go after work and on weekends. That's what you have to change. And I understand these are mom and pop shops. They want to go home, fix dinner for the kids. But you know what? You'd be better off opening at 11 in the morning and staying home until 8 o'clock at night. Or in most countries now, they do siestas in the afternoon from like 2 to 4. You'd be better opening at 3 in the afternoon, staying home until 8 because we're at school, we're at work, we're somewhere else. And then by the time we get home, you're closed. And so in economic development, tourism, and community development, there's absolutely, positively nothing more important than your downtown. But here's the big deal. So many downtowns sit there and they'll spend millions of dollars beautifying their downtowns, and they can still be dead as a doornail because it's what's in the buildings that makes you a draw. So there's videos you can see. So if your communities want to get together, we put together a whole series of these that you can use to tell you what to do and how to do it, okay? So we're going to start with downtown Burlington. We came in and you have beautiful architecture. We wanted to eat there. Our timing couldn't work, but it looked great. Just beautiful built. Is it still in business? Well, good thing we didn't try. But the building still looks great. But it's really too bad because it is gorgeous. Okay? And you know, a couple of things is, first of all, signs should always be perpendicular to the draw. Now, there is a sign there that talks about parking. Can you read it as you're going down the street? No! Turn it sideways. That means it needs to be double-sided probably. But there it is. It's the parking rules, which is fine. And once again, I would change these to public parking down the road. I wouldn't go redo all these signs. They're beautiful signs. Clear to read and everything. And by the way, the next best thing was to be not to put it there. We're in the street. We're looking for parking space. We're not reading signs. It'd be better off if you put it in the parking lot. See what I mean? So once we pull into it, then we see the sign. Then it could be one-sided. Okay? And then, you know, and signs like this should be lower. I mean, it says park rules and it's like 8 feet high. I mean, come on. When it's a pedestrian wayfinding, 4 feet. 4 feet for signs. But it says park, pets and motorized vehicles not allowed, beer and liquor by permit, park hours are 6 to 10. That's all fine. I would have made it decorative so it's not such a municipal, you know, in-your-face kind of sign. Nice pots we saw. But here's what about no pets. There's Jane. I told you she was short. But see that sign? That sign is like way, way up there about no dogs. If you're going to be pedestrian, lower the signs. And of course, you know, one thing I will tell you right off is that 2-hour parking is a good way to kill a downtown. So, here's the deal. In downtown Burlington, I was just out taking pictures, we were walking, we were doing all this stuff, and Jane's going, our parking's gonna expire, our parking's gonna expire, we're gonna get tickets. When people start thinking that way, they're spending less time, they're spending less money, and that's not what you want them to do in your downtown. You know, and so there it is. You know what the rationale is? We cannot get our employees to park somewhere else, so we're gonna punish our customers instead. How's that working for you? If I want to go in some of your shops and have lunch, that's more than 2 hours. Exactly. And if we're sitting there doing this, looking at our watch, when are we going to run out of time? You know what? We're spending less money. And you know what? If we get a ticket, I don't know whether you enforce it or not, but if we were to get a ticket, even though we broke the law, we write you off. So, if you insist on 2-hour parking, you need to tell us where all-day parking is. So it says parking all day straight. It looks like somebody stuck a sticker on that. But here it was 2-hour parking. At least it said, by the way, all-day parking next right. And by the way, I wouldn't give arrows every direction. I would say parking next right, all-day parking next right, or 4-hour parking. If you insist on 2-hour parking, tell us where we can park for 4 hours or more. Okay? So, now, we're in downtown Burlington. You've got some great historic attractions. So the cabin is open Thursday 3 to 7, Saturday 1 to 4. Okay, so I got to make a note of that. And by the way, we love this, where they have a little garden there next to the cabin that talked about the plants, what they grow, and where they came from. That was really cool. Really cool, neat little hidden gem thing. So then we walk across the street to the museum. Now it's open on Sunday afternoon 1 to 4. So now, okay, and then we find the Spinning Top Museum. We're not too sure when it's open, but it has some separate hours. And then we have the Logic Puzzle Museum, which has different hours. And then we've got the Chocolate Museum, which closes at 5, and it's not open on weekends when the other things are open. Or it is open on Saturdays from like 10 to 2, I think. And so we're sitting there going, okay, so now, when is a good time to come and visit Burlington? Now, Monday through Friday, we have the Chocolate Museum open 9 to 5. On Thursday, we could go to the cabin. On Saturday, 1:30 to 12 o'clock, the Puzzle Museum, if we call ahead and make an appointment. And 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, the Chocolate Museum's open. From 1 to 4, the cabin's open. From 1:30 to 3 o'clock, we could do the Logic Puzzle Museum, but you have to call ahead and you cannot be late. And then from 2 to 4:30, the Spinning Top Museum. So we could do the Logic either one of those 2 times. And so then we're sitting there going, okay. And then Sunday, we can go visit the History Museum, or we could go to the Spinning Top Museum if we call ahead. So now we're trying to coordinate all of this. If you could just get everybody to say, look, why don't we just be all open Saturday from 10 to 4 or something. Now I imagine the History Museum is the same people work in the cabin, and there's only a couple volunteers, and so we have to do that on Saturday and this one on Sunday. But you know what? You make it almost impossible for anybody to enjoy the history and the culture you have in Burlington, because the hours are so limited. And by the way, some of your businesses are just as bad. I mean, we went doors that said open and they were locked, you know, and so I would beg you that, you know what, if we're going to drive 45 minutes from downtown Racine, and then the Chocolate Museum is a 15-minute experience, and then everything else is closed, or you have to call for an appointment or anything, we just drove all that way and we can see one out of all. See what I mean? It's just not very good. You've got to somehow sit down together and say, look, what can we do together? And if we want to bring people out here on Saturdays, at least let's just group our hours there so people can have a good experience. Because this was such a hassle that we probably say it's probably not worth, you know, we spent like 2 hours trying to figure all that out. And so most people wouldn't do that. By the way, beautiful park downtown. Does anything ever happen here? What? The farmer's market? When is the farmer's market? Thursdays? What time? Oh my God, let me add that one down there. I didn't have that much stuff going on Thursday, so no, I'm fine. And by the way, I'm glad you're doing it 3 to 7. That's awesome. That is the future of farmers markets. Working to the evening hours during the dinner hour and after work. So I'm really glad you're doing that. How every Thursday, 2 to 7, 3 to 7? 3 to 7, the Burlington Farmers Market right here. Just do that. It'd be really easy because you can't miss this, but I missed your banner somehow. Okay? But beautiful spot. And then even right here, I'd love to see you do just a calendar of events for the whole year. January, February, March, April, May. We somehow missed it. We didn't go and read all of them. By the way, did you know this? This is also true for retail stores. When you have more than 3 to 4 flyers and posters in a window, people tend to ignore them all. 3 to 4. Because we're going to say, well, let's read this one, then that one, then let's go over this one, then that one, then that one. And so in this case, you got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what happens is nothing jumped out at us. So we missed it. Now, where it says artistic fibers, if they were to put fine yarns, or is that what it says? Yeah, fine yarn in bigger letters, that's the lure to pull people in. Always use what to pull people in before the name of the store. Always promote the year. Now, this is the mercantile. I'm trying to figure out, it says bridal here, and there's a bridal dress there. But up here, it looks like women's fashions. But a mercantile means they sell all different kinds of merchandise. So we walk in, and we can't figure this place out. There doesn't seem to be any retail on the ground floor at all. So I don't know where the mercantile is. There are some steps going up there. So I don't know whether that's the bridal shop or women's fashions. Now, your locals are going to know. But what about us visitors that are coming in because we're here to find all that chocolate or whatever it is you're known for? Beautiful facility, but we had no clue what it was. So we thought, Veterans Terrace, when you see words like terrace, it sounds like retirement, like Shady Pines, So we thought, okay, it must be retirement living, but it doesn't look like residential. We had no idea this was this beautiful venue we're in right now. This is stunning. Had no idea it was an event space. It's at Village Hall. Well, you know what? What happens if we're there on the weekend? See what I mean? So here's what you can do. If you just get one of those and just put it outside the chamber office, I think it would be great. This is in Mahone Bay in Nova Scotia. They did like those little mailbox things. So these are things you could do pretty inexpensively. This is in North Platte, Nebraska. I thought this was really cool. It's my favorite one of all of them. But it's a little metal anodized aluminum, and they have like their state guide, their local, you can do the county guide, the state guide, and then your brochure right there, whatever you've got. And they paid like $300 for that, and it's custom made. Over in Burlington, they did this outside their chamber. So if you do whatever you can do to get us some information would be great. So it doesn't have to be expensive, but that way, and I'm glad to see the chambers in there. So you're making use of empty space, what used to be a boutique, right? So that's good. Can you tell me what's in any of those shops? Food, there's food down there. But here's the thing. When we walk down the street or drive down the street, we see perpendicular signs to us. This is our vision out the car. And if I'm walking down the street, there's no incentive to walk down to that corner unless I'm really hungry. Because I don't even know what kind of food. All I know is sell food. There's no blade signs. Even right here, if you had blade signs, you wouldn't need all these sandwich boards. Only way I could see that sign is if I go out in the street, because it's above the awning. It's too high. And so the thing is, there's hardly any blade signs. And this one here, I love that, Alice in Wonderland. That's a really great name. Does somebody here own that store? Great job. That's just really great. And it's a really nice store. However, I only see that sign if I'm across the street. See what I mean? If you just had a little blade sign just hanging just right up there that just said imported toys and games, all the difference in the world. We'd love to see your merchants get together and do a blade sign buying co-op. This is blade signs. Notice one thing about these blade signs: chocolate, collectibles, train, restaurant. It's really easy to tell what they're selling. But you also know something else. They're consistent in height. They don't all have to be cookie cutter same size. You could have round ones, oval ones, rectangle ones. It doesn't matter. But this is Nantucket. I mean, this is Carmel, California. The best towns have blade signs. And by the way, to make it really easy, no lower than 7 feet, no higher than 9 feet, which means they can't be any taller than 24 inches, and no wider than 42 inches would be perfect. That's Canmore, Alberta there. Do blade signs. Your business will increase. But if you go together as merchants or a downtown association or whatever and work, a lot of times they'll give you like, look, if we have 10 people buying blade signs, we'll give everybody like a third off. I've seen sign companies actually do that. 70% of first-time sales come from curb appeal. We all travel. Have you ever said these exact words? That looks like a nice place to eat. We judge the book by the cover, fair or not. And so in this case, that is gorgeous. You have to understand that people gravitate towards these. I'm a huge proponent of putting window displays into exterior spaces, like you see with the clothes hanging there, but you would never put a clothes rack in your window, so you don't put it outside. Unless, now these, if they're a special like 50% off, then that makes sense. Or you're doing a garage sale weekend. But what you always want to do, like this thing here, this is really decorative, but I really think that, as a matter of fact, I want to show other people because I think this is really awesome, doing this, doing this, doing this. This here is what I try to avoid if I can, but at least this one here is decorative, and there is a mannequin on the end piece, so it does make it so it works. So, but it's a good job. It tells me they're in business, and it tells me they're trying to pull people in the door, so they do a good job. Fantastic job here. There's Jane being my model. You know, with the flower pots, a couple of a chair and a couple of chairs and a little table. Just adds life and makes it seem welcoming. You ever wonder why people put porch swings or a couple rocking chairs on the front porch? They may never sit them, but you know what it does? It makes their home feel welcoming. It's the same with retail. But once again, they do a good job. They got flower pots, they got garbage receptacles right there, we got colored chairs there. I mean, they did a really good job, and that place was busy, and yes, we went there and bought custard. And by the way, I would have loved to see some tables and chairs in the back. I don't know if they're going to put those out, but they've got the flower pots there. They thought, just put a couple tables and chairs out there too. But they do a really good job. Now is this the coffee shop? Does a great job. As a matter of fact, I guess I'll be there tomorrow afternoon. And I mean, it's just a great, you could see this is where people hang out. Is it? It is, and it's great. Look at that. That's in Canmore, Alberta. I mean, this is Laverne, Minnesota. You know, and so it's just not that expensive to do. And by the way, neither of these places sell food. They do it because it makes it seem welcoming. So for your merchants, I want you to pass this on. Extend window displays. By the way, merchants should always have 24 to 30 inches outside their storefronts. If you have city telling you can't do it, then they need to change the bylaw, the ordinances. And by the way, blade signs, benches, facade appeal, window displays, sidewalk dining umbrellas. This is Neenah, Wisconsin. Now this is before, look. City takes care of the curbside. Merchant should take care of the facade side. Before, after. See, I just heard that. Whoa. Retail sales went up 30% just by doing that to that. That is the power of beautification. But you know what you could do? I love this. This is Fredericksburg, Texas. They did a cool thing. What they did is they said, they wanted to beautify the storefronts, but they didn't really have a lot of money. So what they did is they went down the row of businesses on both sides of their main street, and they said, look, we want to go get some pots. And we're going to go to a nursery at the end of the season. We'll take whatever they got, as long as the opening was 21 inches or bigger. So they didn't want little pots. They said, would you donate some money? So like one merchant gave them $20. I think the average was like $40. Somebody gave them $200. They took the money over to a wholesale nursery, like 20 miles away. And they said, at the end of the season, we want all your pots. Even if they have chips, they have hairline cracks, or if you only have one pot, doesn't match another, we'll take whatever you got, but we want you to sell it to us for pennies on the dollars. And we'll just get it. So they did that. They brought back a bunch of pots on a flatbed truck. They sent them in a side street, and they said, merchants, help yourself. They didn't say, you only paid $20, you only get one. They just said, help yourself. So you could see that this merchant grabbed these that kind of look similar. This merchant grabbed these. This merchant grabbed these, the white ones kind of down there. Another merchant grabbed these two tall ones. Then what they did is they went and put 15 yards of topsoil in a side street and some gravel and some landscape fabric. And they went to youth organizations that were trying to raise money. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, I guess they're all just scouts now. Scouts. They went to band, cheerleaders, football, any youth organization trying to raise money and said, look, we want you to put rock in the bottom of each pot, put a thing of landscape fabric, and then fill them full of topsoil. This is like October. Now this is Texas, so it's a little easier than you are, but they did that. Okay, and you know what? So the kids did that, they did that, but it was now winter time, and so they put in all these pots pinwheels. It made the national news, all the pinwheels, because they didn't plant them. And then in the spring, they made sure they planted them with 3/4 of the plantings were evergreens. But here's the thing, because they never had one case of vandalism, because kids protect things they take ownership of. You see the men on the benches, guess where the wives are? Shopping. That was not posed. That was not set up. Look, I have just 2 words for you. Think benches. This is Cedar City, Utah, but you know what? You could, that bench is probably a few $100s, but you can go to Lowe's. I don't know if you have Ace Hardware, Home Depot, whatever you got, you can buy nice benches for $79. And then put a pot on both sides. And always, your benches should always be at the facade facing out. Okay? Now, so when I see these benches, I'm going, put that against the facade and flank it with pots, because Zumpanos doesn't look that great. It's got a great sign, it's probably a great restaurant, but there's zero curb appeal. I think the town or the city has done a good job with all the baskets, but what are the merchants doing? I say, but Roger, you don't know what it's like in the winter. Okay, this is Port Elgin in Ontario in the middle of December. All they do is the annuals and the flowers are gone. They put in the boughs, they put in dried flowers. This is Erin, Ontario. These are little towns. And this is in the winter. And yeah, they have, they shovel the snow around them when they get it. Some of these have awnings, so it's okay. But look at what they've done. There's just no excuse for not pulling customers in your door. And beautification, remember what I said, 70% of first-time sales. Once we're there, we get it. But that first time, we judge the book by the cover. Add some color. That's gorgeous. People say, oh, it's a historic downtown. They didn't have that color back. You know what? Sometimes we kill ourselves. And so I just think that's fantastic. You know what? We saw this cafe. We made a special trip back out here from downtown Racine to eat at that cafe. You have a stunning boardwalk. This needs to be programmed. I mean, those chess sets, Jenga blocks, you have places you can activate and there's nothing going on them, and it's June. And maybe you do flower and garden shows. I mean, I can think of a whole list of cool things you could do in these places. And by the way, I think you need to have sidewalk cafe dining. Because right here we've got like a cigarette thing and a bench. I mean, that really makes you want to go in. And by the way, one thing that I got to got a kick out of was that if you go here to John's Main Event, you get Burlington's best burgers. The problem is, like 2 doors down, you can get the world's best burgers. So why would you settle for Burlington's best burgers? Yeah, well, so I would love to see right here, there's Flippy's Fast Food. I'm not so sure I'd put fast food in your title. You know what I mean? But Flippy's, I think it's a great name, but why aren't there any tables and chairs? And so I do think this is something you should do. If I go back to Canmore, Alberta, they allow merchants to do this. I mean, sometimes it's just as simple as that. And by the way, here's an ice cream shop, and when you have people sitting out there, her sales skyrocket. And I said, you know what? I went into a similar shop like this, and I said, ma'am, there were kids out there. And I said, I would give those kids free ice cream and let them sit out there all day. She goes, that's what I do. Then she goes, actually, I give kids 1 free ice cream cone. They do need to sit in those chairs. And you know what? Their moms love my store, and every single time they do that, there is a line of people coming in the store. And in the case that I went in, she didn't even sell ice cream. It was Home Accents. She had a little ice cream bar. It was just a way to get people in her store. I said, but they're in your Home Accents store. Most people say, no food or drink allowed. I said, how does that work for you? You're selling ice cream. They're walking around in your Home Accents. She goes, every once in a while, I have an accident. But you know what? 70% of my non-ice cream sales come because I sell ice cream. It's worth it. Some of your sidewalks aren't wide enough. This is in Nelson, British Columbia, population 5,000. They actually let merchants take up a parking space to allow outdoor dining. Now, I took that picture in October. They were just getting ready to take it down for the winter. But these are all little sidewalk cafes. This is in Nelson, British Columbia. They took up parking spaces for that. And so, I mean, look at how simple that is. I don't know how they get away with it. And I said, you know what? You've got a big trip hazard there. I said, you know what? We've never had a complaint. We do tell people, watch your step. And so it's just that organic. Now, I think this is even better. This is Wolfville, Nova Scotia. What they do is the dining is up here against the building, and they allow pedestrians to walk around. That's what you could do. Yeah, you lose a parking space or two, but you know what? They have reflectors on there, and it's a non-slip surface, and you can see where storm drainage still allowed to do that. And by the way, in Wolfville, Nova Scotia, they share a warehouse, and during the winter months, they just put them all in the warehouse, and then in the spring, they bring them back out. How cool is that? Number one, it slows traffic. Number two, it gets people's attention. Number three, it increases retail sales or restaurant sales dramatically. I mean, how cool is that? You know, this is Barrie, Ontario. See, they just put that one up. It was brand new. But you see where they had the reflectors? And you see where it's all ADA compatible, so you can get wheelchairs, everything. You do that. I took this early in the morning. They weren't even open yet. But how cool is that? I think you need to do that. You know, even here where they had to work around a fire hydrant. You know, that's cool stuff. But you know, this, I just thought you have a beautiful, beautiful downtown, bring it to life. Napoli, it was really great food, but it doesn't have a stitch of curb appeal. You know why we ate there? Because TripAdvisor said it was great. See, if we can't trust your curb appeal, we have to go online and figure out whether we made a good choice. And it was really good. But you wouldn't know it from outside. I would love to see this downtown. I always when I see shops out there, I'm going, no, we need you downtown. And I would love to see it if they rented bikes. Wouldn't that be cool? You got the trail systems. And you know, one of our best things about Waterford, it seems to be the only place in Racine County, except for the one I just learned about in Racine, that actually rents boats, kayaks, and canoes. Way to go, Waterford. That means we'll skip over Burlington to go to you. See, this is me pitting town against towns. And by the way, I think you two could market together because you each have different products and you're, 6 miles apart or something? I mean, I think you two should market together. I think you do really well because you each offer different things. But I was really glad to see that. But at the end of the day, we just thought it was just both these towns were like, wow. If you know what, if I was getting a job in this area, in Racine County somewhere, and I wanted more of a country lifestyle, absolutely, this is where we'd come. One thing I really like about both of these towns is it's an intimate setting. It's not big, it's not brash, we're not trying to be pretentious or anything. This is who we are, and I thought it was awesome. I think that what you have, I mean, even the Malthouse Theater looked like a really cool place. I'm not sure what they show or when or how it works, but even just that, even looked like a really cool, organic place to spend time or see theater. Even the bike racks I thought were cool. What is your brand? And remember, a brand is not a logo. It's what people think of you. When you say, oh, I'm from Burlington, what do they say? Burlington Coat Factory? I mean, there's almost every state has a Burlington. And so, but what is it? Is it chocolate? What is it? For both of you, what is your unique selling proposition? Why should I move? Why should I invest? Why should I visit you? What is it? You know? And then the next thing to do is what sets you apart from the other 593 cities and towns in Wisconsin. If we wanted to work at Foxconn, you have what, Kansasville, did I get that right? You've got what, 11 cities and towns in the county? Is that right, Dave? 17 cities and towns just in your county. But then there's also Kenosha, there's also Milwaukee, there's also Madison, there's lots of places around you. What sets you apart? Is it art? Is it music? Is it food? Is it recreation? And by the way, you can't use recreation. Everybody has recreation. This is Wisconsin. And everybody seems to have a Fox River. And while you're working on that, I want you to create an assessment team. So you have 72 of these little suggestions. Other than wayfinding, and maybe putting pavers in the loop, if you decided to put paver stones in there, you know, because you don't want to do it on asphalt. That way you can make it all even so you don't have tripped curbs and all that. You know what? Other than that, you could probably do all of this stuff for like $30,000, all of it. It's all low-hanging fruit. Most of are things businesses need to do. I mean, wayfinding is not so cheap, but you can hand out assignments. They're just suggestions. This whole assessment is meant to be a conversation starter to get you going. You know, I just pulled demographics earlier today. Within a 5-mile radius of Main Street and State Street in Racine, so right on the waterfront, 5-mile radius, which half of it's in the lake, you have 120,000 people. Why should any of those 120,000, and that, by the way, that doesn't even get us to 94. You need to give people in that side of the county a reason to come to Waterford and Burlington. What you have to understand is, what do you have? That's your unique selling proposition. Why should I come? I even thought, could you do a really cool farmer's market out here between these two towns or in one of the two towns? A big one that would outdo Kenosha where Racine goes. You know, you could do that. You're in farm country. But whatever it is, give us a reason to come out there. You have chocolate, that's 3 days a week. I mean, does it even last the 3 days, the whole weekend? But what about the other 362 days of the year? That's what you need to work on. If you want visitors to come and live here, move here, or just come and spend time, money here, you got to make it easier. Like all those museum hours. And we had a kick putting that together. It wasn't easy. So that's what you need to do. You know, I think this is about making something happen. And you know, one of my favorite sayings is this: the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. I think job opportunities are here, and you just need to work on your quality of life. Young people and young families like things to do after 6, and we're not talking bars. We're just talking life. Relieved visitors spend more. It's true. Think about this. McDonald's has a policy of never putting on their doors for customers only or no public restrooms, like some of your businesses do. You know why? Because 80% of the people that go into McDonald's to use the restroom buy something. Half out of guilt. They call it guilt sales. We use the restroom, we better buy something. And the other half out of impulse. While we're here, let's get something to eat, let's get something to drink. Absolutely, you should have public restrooms. Now, you cannot do public restrooms that are in the village hall or town thing that close at 5. If we're coming downtown to hang out after work on weekends, they need to be open. By the way, public restrooms should always be in the heart of the spending district. If you're where people can spend money, you won't have vandalism because there are people around. And so that is something that's absolutely important. Relieved visitors do spend more. It's really true. Oh, we love trees. Street trees, by the way. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Keep America Beautiful Network, a national nonprofit, did a study where they went into 4 downtowns, big and small. I think the smallest downtown was like 1,000 people. And they had no street trees, and they had them plant street trees every 30 feet in one block. Then what they did in these 4 towns all over the country, they watched the retail sales in that block compared to the rest of the town for a year. No other changes. And you know what happened? Each of those blocks, the retail sales in the block with the street trees was up nearly 20% more than all the blocks without street trees. That was the only difference with street trees. Street trees create a sense of intimacy, it creates traffic calming. And you know what I hear? You put the street trees, they're going to block my signs. Or you put the street trees, public works. Street trees, they're going to pull up, they're going to root the sidewalks. Street trees, oh, the leaves are going to be on our storm drains. We put up all these excuses. You don't understand the power of trees. Street trees. One of the things we really liked about the Loop was that one side of that, you have a lot of trees in there. It just created a sense of intimacy. Huge proponents. Street trees should be every 30 feet. Absolutely. And they can be lit up in the winter. In Greenville, South Carolina, they all complained about all the street trees they put in. They complained, all those excuses plus more. You know what happened afterwards? Don't ever take those trees out because our retail sales went up sky high. It didn't matter about blocking our signs because people wanted to walk down our streets. Street trees are fantastic. So with that, thank you so much for spending the evening here. Thank you very much.